So just in case you're wondering, we are here for the membership community of practice. I'm pretty excited because I see some new faces, so that will be exciting to meet you as we go. Maybe give a shout out to Stony Plain. Hi, Deanna. Thanks for joining us. Just a quick recap of why we're all here. So we like to take this opportunity within the community of practice because we know there's lots of opportunities for us to gather and learn about different things, but this is our one opportunity, just as the Deepening Communities members, to kind of connect and really think about our strategies and the things that we're really wrestling with, and how we can make a difference. And so this is our opportunity to bring our resources together and our experiences to troubleshoot the things that we're working on, and to just have that kind of safe place for us to put those things out there and work with our peers across the country as we grow our practice. Today I'm pretty excited because we have a special guest, and it's Heather. And I love that we have Heather. I'm pointing to her. I don't know if she's there in your screen, but she's over there for me. And she's going to be walking us through building the case for building a neighborhood strategy. And she built an awesome guide around it too. So we'll be able to share that out afterwards. And then we will do our closing. But so I'm pretty excited. I'm excited that we have a bit of a smaller group so we can take some time to do some check-ins and really hear about where you guys are at. So yeah, if we can, we'll just take time, we'll go around the room. You can let us know your name, where you're located. Also, we started to hear what the temperature is where you are, and it's actually fascinating given the size of our country. So yeah, what the temperature is there, and one word, or since we're a smaller group, 2 or 3 words that describes your summer so far. That would be fantastic. And I'm gonna go this way around my screen to Emily. Oh, you're on mute, Emily.
Emily Jarsma. I work at Greenway Chaplain Community Center, and we are located in Cambridge, Ontario. And summer backyard patio, i.e. cottage. Yeah, that's right. Temperature's 27, I believe, right now.
Nice. Thanks, Emily. I realized I didn't introduce myself. So my name is Glenda. I also work with the Tamarack Institute. I live in Salmon Arm, BC. Yes, our fish have limbs. My summer so far has been a lot of learning to ride my bike. There we go. I'm going to pass it to Trisha.
Hi, everyone. I'm Trisha Turner. I am from Timmins, Ontario, with the Cochrane District Social Planning Council. And my summer so far, cottage and mosquitoes.
There have been a lot of mosquitoes. Deanna.
Hi, Deanna from Stony Plain, Alberta. I actually live in Spruce Grove, which is about literally like 2 seconds beside Stony Plain. We're sister communities with a road that divides us. So, but yeah, I work in Stony, live in Spruce. And I'm from Stony Plain Family and Community Support Services. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you. I'm new to the group, so this is exciting to see people from all across our country. My summer so far, I would say kayaking. We've taken that up, and so we've been out adventuring our local lakes, also to the mountains a bit, and kids. So trying to keep my kids entertained and have all that summer fun and still work. So that's my summer out here. Oh, and today it is, I think, about 22 right now in our neighborhood.
All right. Thanks and welcome. We're glad you're here. Angie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Angie from St. Albert, Alberta, very close to Deanna. My phone says it's 24 degrees outside, so maybe it's a little warmer in St. Albert. I don't know. And let's see, the first word that came to my mind to describe summer so far was just glorious, because even though we've had a lot of rain, it's just been so nice to be able to sit outside and on the deck and, you know, enjoy my garden and just have a little reprieve from this weird world that we're living in. But we have done a lot of kayaking. Okay, the other word might be out of shape. So we've tried doing some hiking and things like that, which is fine, but I just can't believe how out of shape I am. So I'll have to work on that one.
Thank you. This is also Honesty Hour. Great. Over to you, Deb. Deb
Hi,
Maxwell.
it's
Yeah.
Deborah. I'm sitting outside and don't want to freeze. So.
Oh, there's two Deb.
There's two Deborah. Sorry. I guess Deborah Jacobet, go for it.
I'm sorry you said Deb, and I didn't notice there was a Deb Maxwell because I can't see very well. I'm sitting outside. And so hi, Deb Maxwell. I'm Deborah from Edmonton, and it's 24, 23 degrees out. And my word for the summer is gardening. I've just been hanging out in my garden, and it's awesome. So I really enjoy working from home.
Thanks, Deborah. Okay, and Deb.
The other Deb. If it's Honesty Hour, I guess my words are wine and weather. Lots of backyard patios, and I've just been lucky that wherever I've ended up, the weather's been pretty good. So right now in Cochrane, Alberta, it's an epic 21 degrees. But when you live this close to the mountains, it can be a little cooler. So our temperatures have been actually pretty nice. I work with Cochrane FCSS in neighborhood inclusion, which was a new department kind of like a year ago or so, a little bit longer. And now with all the changes in the province, we are doing strat planning in a couple of weeks, and we'll, I don't know, figure out what neighborhood inclusion actually means or where we're going. So community development and this platform has actually been amazing to be a part of. So I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Deb. You have undergone a lot of changes in the last year for sure.
Yeah, and it's not over, and it had nothing to do with COVID. And then COVID just was like, yeah.
Hey, Brandon.
Hey, Glenda. I'm Brandon. I'm calling in from Hamilton, but I work in Niagara for the health unit, so Niagara Region Public Health. And it's been a hot summer. It's only 27 here today, which is nice. The humidity is broke, and that's evidenced by my cat actually being able to move around and show signs of life, which is really reassuring. So yeah, good to see you all.
That's awesome. Thanks, Brandon. Over to Christine.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christine. I work with Tamarack as well, and I'm based in Nelson, BC. It's quite lovely right now, but the temperature is planning to go up to 36 today. It's been consistently in the high 30s the last couple of weeks. So yeah, it's hot, but it's manageable. We've got a lake right here, and I would say one of my words is swimming, and I'm learning to tolerate very cold water, which I used to be better at when I was younger, and I've become more of a wuss the older I get. So trying to just swim as much as I can, and when I'm not swimming, I'm gardening. We tripled our garden this year in size, and it's a good time to sort of look at, with COVID and all the uncertainties around food supply and everything, just looking at trying to be more sustainable and doing more ourselves to be resilient during these times.
And like Christine, for weeks now, I think, has been talking about the raspberries she's been collecting. So you need raspberries. Talk to Christine, I think. And Heather.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here on the call with you today. And I actually want to use all of your words, especially the wine, and add finishing. We've been able to finish a lot of projects that we had started, especially outside, and get some stuff done. So that's really, it's an awesome feeling to do that, but with lots of wine to help us get through that. Yeah, and it is 25 degrees here. It is beautiful.
That's awesome. Hey, thanks everyone. I'm so glad that you've all made it, and we're all surviving summer in our own way. Not one person talked about a big trip. This is a different summer. That's what I have to say about that. Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to Heather. Take us away.
All right. So I'm so excited to be here and talking about really the first step of building a neighborhood strategy. I'm really passionate about the first step. I call it the foundation. And we put a guide together last year, more like an annotated bibliography. So it's not a guide in terms of steps that you check off, but just, you know, helping guide you through the process and tools and resources that if you need to dive deeper into it, these are ones that we recommend and have used ourselves. So I'm just going to start off about why build a neighborhood strategy. When I first moved into this position and I talked to a lot of those who were on our community of practice, I heard, well, we have a municipal strategy, or organizations have strategies, or residents have groups and plans. And what I realized is that they each had these strategies, but they were not aligned. They were not put together in a nice way to see where the overlaps were. How do we reduce duplication, and how do we maximize our resources? And they were very top down. And how do we flip it so that we can hear from the residents and have our like department strategies, but meet in the middle? And so we really think that having a neighborhood strategy that pulls all of these together is really important. Some of the main things that a strategy should be focusing on is the engagement process. And I think this is the biggest, and this is the foundation of your strategy. It helps to provide a vision, goals, and objectives of where the neighborhood or the city or the town wants to go, with all of those strategies that have been developed. What are the common themes from that, and how do we push that into a vision so that we're all working towards the same goal? And then the planning process, not the plan itself, but the process that you do to develop your plan is really, really important. A strategy helps to build credibility, sustainability, collective work across departments, organizations, citizens, residents, to an overall vision. So the next slide. So the purpose of the guide was to put it into kind of like I like Cormac's example, like touchstones, things that you need to touch upon to be able to do this effectively. And I've presented it kind of like a linear, but knowing that you might have to go back to a step and redo it again and move forward, so that it's not necessarily just once you've done one step you keep going. You'll have to kind of go back as you find things and new things come up. And so I have this picture here because I really truly believe that building your case is your foundation. If you don't have a solid foundation, if you don't have a really good case, don't have really good champions, it's going to be a struggle to move a strategy forward. And so putting a good foundation, and there's a lot of work to put a foundation in for a home. But when you put your foundation in and you build it, building the walls and the levels and the floors makes it a lot easier to do. The guide provides some ideas and tools and resources. So it's hard. I know a lot of us are doing this work part-time. It's one of your 100 portfolios you have, and it's hard to go out there and do the research to find out what are the tools and resources that are out there that people have tried. And so this guide, another purpose of the guide was to put this together for you, to make it easier, and some tools and resources that we back, that we've used before, that we know is effective and works. Not to say that they're the only ones, but it's really to get you started in the process. And then also to move you from activities and programs to more of a strategy, and to start thinking big and long term. So activities and programs are not the end. It is a way of getting to the end, but you need to figure out what that end is, and that's that strategy piece. So here is the steps to build your case. So you need to determine, why are you doing a neighborhood strategy? Why is that important for your community, your neighborhood? And then you need to do a scan to find out what's out there, and what research has been out there, who's done what, pulling it all together. Then you need to engage your stakeholders. And I'm going to actually spend a bit of time on this piece, because this to me is a very, very important piece. And I know that I had done this wrong. And I've learned ways to do this better, and then to form your leadership team. So the next slide talks about the vision process. And really what you need to do is, what are the issues? Why are we bringing a strategy forward? What is the motivation behind it? And from talking with all of you and many others, we are realizing that, and especially now that the pandemic happened, we are realizing that that community is really important in an emergency. Community is really important in terms of the social capital that it has, and we need to bring that social capital out, and we need to make people aware of the social capital that's in there. Deborah from Edmonton and I and Jonathan, we did a webinar on Tuesday, and we showed a little clip about the 4 capitals. I'm hoping I'm going to find this. And social, so there's 4 forms of capital. There's economic capital, there's human capital, there's social capital, and there's natural capital. And I'll make sure that Glenda has a clip. We'll give you a little clip about this, because I think the strategy is going to help us bring all of those capitals together. We tend to focus on economic capital, but we don't focus on the social and the human capital. And I think that's where when we're bringing our vision together, that's where we can really bring that in. Also, to bring in residents. So in terms of the understanding your needs, understanding why are residents not involved in community life? How can residents be involved in community life? And so trying to figure that out, and try to figure out how we can use the gifts and the assets and the skills. So you got to determine your vision first. The next slide is a tool that I just want to highlight, and it's refining your idea tool. And this tool is really, and we'll give you the link to it. But this tool is actually helping you to, what is your idea? So the idea is developing a strategy for our neighborhood. Who are the parties that would benefit from this idea? And then you start labeling those. And then, what are the features that are part of your idea? And what are the benefits of these features? And so this tool here helps you to visualize and articulate your vision for why you're wanting to do this. A lot of the times where we fail in trying to build the case is we're not clear on the why. And so the more clear you are on the why a strategy is important, and doing your research in terms of what you've been hearing from the community, the better you are in terms of getting people to understand the importance of the strategy and bringing them on board. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Okay, so we're going to go on to the next. The next is community scan. So this is where, if you have access to an epidemiologist, if you have access to data, talking to organizations, looking at all the surveys you've done, this is a chance to do a community scan and pull it all together. And in my work, when I did building a healthy communities plan for 2 counties, we went out and we did all this research. We looked at what does the stats say about our community. We have, low number of fruits and vegetable consumption. We have a lot of people who are not physically active. I talked to organizations and asked, well, what was your survey results? We talked to residents, groups, and organizations to know what they thought about it, what they know about it. And what was really interesting, though, is when I did all this community scan and I went and I talked to residents and groups, what I thought was important in the data, it wasn't important to them. So an example would be fruits and vegetable consumption. I thought that was really important. But what was more important was housing. Because if I don't have a house, I don't have a fridge, I don't have a stove. And so that really helped in terms of understanding where we need to go and where the residents are in position with the data. And then we created a 1 to 2 page document that outlined what we learned. And basically it was more like an infographic. It was very easy to understand. And so this is what the data said, this is what the community said, and this is where we think we need to go. And it's a communication tool, so that when you're going out and you're talking with groups, it's easy for them to understand and know. And I use this communication tool, I called it the golden ticket, because I went to different groups and organizations, I got on their agendas, and I talked with them and presented the data and this 2-pager. And at the very end, I said, if this is something that is of interest to you and your organization, I have a date, which I've already predetermined, was a month later, where I'm asking everyone to come together to talk about this. And so this was a really, like, having a community scan and a communication tool was really, really a good way of building the case, and also having people come to a later meeting. Another tool that we have to build the case is called a common agenda framework. And I really like this because it helps you to go through it in a logical way, and position your the reasons to have a neighborhood strategy. So, what is the problem, issue, or opportunity that we want to address? So in terms of our strategy, what is the purpose of our strategy? And then it talks to you about what are the community needs and assets and resources we have. And so then you go through this and you answer those. And then that helps to inform your 1 to 2 pager. I've used this a lot. I really like it. I like it as a tool when you have a group of people who are starting off. It gets them to really think about it. It can also be thought of as a environmental scan, in terms of where are we today and what does the environment look like. And this can help contribute to your 1 to 2 pager. And so the next part is, so once you've done that, you've got your vision, your reason why you're doing this, you've got your communication, which is your 1 to 2 pager, you're very clear, you have almost like an elevator spiel in terms of how you're going to pitch this. This is a time where we then start going and we engaging our champions. And this is what I'm really passionate about, because I did this very same mistake for many years, is that I threw many darts hoping to get it all into the bullseye. And those many darts were the same dart. And I realized that that was the wrong way to go about engaging our champions, because it was one letter for all targets. And then I wondered why nobody showed, or very little people showed, or the wrong people showed. And so I realized what my mistake was, is again, really is that foundation is taking the time to understand who your champions and your partners and your neighbors are. And when I was actually out in St. Albert, I talked to the former mayor there. We had a great conversation, and I was talking to him about neighborhood strategies and community engagement. And he said to me, you know, when you come to council and you say community engagement, it means something different to a council member. It means more of what planners do. So you put up a sign and you say that there's a subdivision going, and you know, you come to an information night. That's engagement. And he's like, so when you're talking to a council member, you need to be understanding their language, and you need to be taking the vision and that communication that you've put together, and you need to put it in their language. You need to present it and explain it to them using their language. And so that was a huge aha moment. And thank you, Angie, for bringing me down there, because that was what, 3 years ago? And that changed the way I thought and I did my work. And so when you're talking to municipal staff, again, you know, you got to understand their strategies, their department strategies, and their language. And then with neighborhood groups and associations, you got to change the way you talk about your work. And I did a course. I did a course about knowledge mobilization, and I used this as my practicum for my work. And what I did is I labeled all the different champions or stakeholders and partners that I want to engage, and I talked about them. So neighborhood residents, you know, neighbors provide the importance to connections, what their role is, and then I thought about the barriers to their involvement. So why wouldn't neighbors want to be involved in a strategy? And I brainstormed, you know, they may not feel connected to the community. There's lack of time, lack of knowledge or understanding. Maybe they don't know about the opportunities to present. So by understanding the barriers to involvement, I was able then to figure out, how am I going to engage them? What are the opportunities and ways that I can engage neighborhood residents? And then I did that for service organizations and providers. And then I did that for municipal staff and departments. And when I looked at how I'm going to engage them, they were all very different. So neighborhoods, I said, you know what? It's that 100 cups of coffee. It is going out and meeting them where they're at. Service organizations and providers, they're residents and volunteers mostly, in terms of the associations, Lions, Rotary, etc. They all have jobs and they're doing this. So I knew I had to go to them. And this is where I went and did the roadshow of agendas. And I got on any and every agenda I could get and chatted with them and understood them. And when I went to service organizations, and even when I went to cities and the municipal departments, I did my research, and I made connections. So I'd say, you know, you're working on a subdivision plan in X town. Do you know that there is a trail that could be connected through there, that this strategy would help you to make sure that we can connect a trail through there? So planting little seeds and ideas when I did my pitch. So I kind of digress a little bit, but my point here is that you need to understand the different segments and the targets. One letter to all of them, asking them to come to an event or a meeting or anything like that, you're only going to probably get one of those darts in the center. The rest are kind of just going to be random. So the next slide actually talks about this process. This is a process from my brain to paper, and utilizing the way that I did my work, and hearing and listening to those who were successful across Canada. And it just puts it into kind of a flow chart, what I had just said. So, you know, you got to figure out the purpose of engaging that person or that champion. So why am I engaging my counselor? What am I looking for from that counselor? And then I do my research, and I draw different perspectives, and a key list, and then I approach them, and I figure out, how am I going to approach them? How long is it going to take? Who's going to do it? Because maybe I'm not the right person to approach. I don't know who Glenda is, but Brandon knows who Glenda is. And so Glenda's more likely going to have a meeting with Brandon than she is me. She's going to be like, who is this Heather Keem? I don't have time for this. So you have to figure out who in your circle of people who are backing this, who is the right person to talk about it. And then how are you going to engage your champion, and what activities and asks can they contribute? So the worst thing that I found I could do is meet with Glenda and say, I got this great idea. We want to really do this. I want you to join the group. And she says, oh, well, why? And I go, because it's because I really need somebody in a seat. You want to, that is the worst thing we can do. So you really need to know, what can they contribute? So Glenda is a people person, and she has a lot of connections. So the reason why I would want Glenda to be part of my leadership team is because she's well connected in the community and people respect her. And so her role in this would be the connector. And then you would actually, you kind of go, as you pull people together, they're around the table, you then go back up and say, okay, do we have the right people? And you kind of go through there. This is my thinking, my process. I did find it works really well. And if you guys would like to dive deeper into this, I'd love to have a coffee chat. There's no tool or anything other than this slide, and my presentation piece of it. But it's really, when we go to the forming the leadership, the slide before becomes really important, because you've already made the connection as to what people's roles are when they come to the meeting. The worst thing is performing your leadership meeting. You invite everyone to come, and they're unclear as to why they're there. And they're unclear as to what they can contribute to this. And then, what happens after that meeting? You never see them again. And so, all taking that time, that foundation, build those relationships and making those connections as to, Glenda's the connector, and, to do a neighborhood strategy, we need people who know people in the community and who are really great connectors. And that's the role we see you play. That's identifying the gift and the asset. And when you identify somebody's gift and somebody's asset, they're more likely to contribute that, versus me trying to figure out how I fit in with the strategy and this group. And so once you've done all of that, you then already having a date picked. So, September 12th, you say, listen, September 12th is where we're going to meet first, our first meeting. I'm going to form a leadership team. We would love for you to come and join. And this is where you would then look at the purpose of the team, the roles and responsibilities, coming up with your common language. And I realized when I finished this guide that it doesn't stop here. So we just launched a guide on groups and how to pull your group together. So really, how do you decide the purpose of this team? Is it a networking team? Are we just coming here to network and share stories, or are we a collaborative? And how do we determine that? Roles and responsibilities, your terms of reference, identifying who's doing what, who's responsible, Actually, the next slide, Glenda, really talks to that. So you have a list of all the different roles, and then who can fill it, strengths and weaknesses, and next steps. So this is a great tool to help you figure out what do we need in our group, in our leadership group, to be successful. So we need a host, a convener, somebody who is the lead of this. We need somebody who does all of our finances piece, because we're going to be getting grants or we have some money. A backbone infrastructure, etc. So you would just list all that stuff, and then you would say, okay, you know, in your group, who can do these, who has the skills, and match them up. Go back to the previous slide there, Glenda. And so forming your leadership team is basically that concrete you're pouring. So everything else you did was the footings that you do, and they put it all in the ground, they dig it all, and they form it all. And then the leadership team is that concrete that they pour into the foundation. I'm gonna stop there, because I think logically the next time we get together, I can go through that group guide. Because when you're forming this leadership group, it's not about bums in the seat. It's about having the right people who know their gifts and their contributions. It's about how do we determine where we are on the spectrum. Are we just a network? Are we a collaborative? Coming up with a common language. So again, when you're bringing your leadership team together, you've got residents, city staff, municipal governments, associations, organizations. So you need to come to a common language in terms of when you're saying neighborhood strategy, this is what we're meaning. When we're saying we're engaging, this is what we're meaning. And so a common language is a really good product to have with the leadership team. It helps when people come and go. So you get new people in, you have this sheet of a common language so that they understand what it is that we're meaning when we come and go. And then the other part that we do not do very well is evaluating our leadership. And how are we functioning? Is it working? What can we do to change? When somebody leaves, does anyone follow up with them? Why are they leaving? When somebody's new, is there orientation? And so I'm going to stop there, because the guide I just released actually goes into all of that and really helps to look at your current group, but also when you're forming a new group. That was a lot. I tried to simplify it. And I tried to pull out some of the key tools and the key points. So now we're going to move into group reflection. So I want to hear from you on, you know, how do you build the case, or how did you build the case? And any questions or challenges that you have that you might that we could bring up into this group. So the floor is open. Over to you, Glenda.
I think it's actually over to the group. I know some of you have built the case for your work, and I'm curious to know what were some of the defining pieces for you in the work that you've done in building the case.
That's actually a good question. That what was that time frame to kind of build a case, meet with your champions? Like, I think at one point you said a 3-year process or 1-year process. Can you break that down a bit?
So it was for me to go from the idea of a healthy communities plan to that day where we invited people. It was 8 months. Mind you, it was 8 months of me doing it full time. That was my role, that was my job. And it didn't happen between 9 to 5. There was a lot of nights, because if you're going to engage with Lions and Rotary and Optimists, all of those types of groups, they meet in the evenings. and sometimes weekends. So to engage with the residents, it was over the summertime, and I went to all the festivals. And this was what I don't even know if in terms of liability, we would be able to do this anymore, but we had human hamster balls. And so when I went to the Friendship Festival, I got a booth, an area. The kids were running around in these human hamster balls. And while the parents were waiting, I engaged with the parents and talked with them and said, here, these are the themes that came out from our research. Do these resonate with you? And there was, I don't know, like 300 and some odd surveys. Or conversations, which was a survey that I asked, that we got filled in. So full-time, that long. Doing this part-time, it's probably going to take you a little longer. And being creative. It's not like the days of booking meetings. Okay, come to me Monday from 2 to 3 at the Legion, the local Legion. People don't do that anymore. They don't come. The best way to reach them is to go where they're already meeting. That's my biggest advice, is to go where they're already meeting.
Well, now in the world of Zoom meetings, sometimes I'm finding success that people will, oh, in 5 minutes I have a meeting, and click and be able to make it and be present before they arrive at where you are, or you trying to catch up to them. Yeah, Zoom's kind of something that's not going away.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Great question. Thank you, Deb. Oh, Karen just said, totally agree with you, Deb. Anybody else have experience with building the case?
Yeah, I can weigh in just a little bit. So for, the health unit, my role is focused on, equity seeking initiatives and better understanding and addressing social determinants or dimensions of health. And so the community that I've been working alongside is one from the outset that's riddled with a lot of poverty. A lot of people are facing various forms of oppression and marginalization there. And what's been kind of interesting, I think we operate pretty well as a networking group, and perhaps that's the foundation for future collaborative work. And I think that that's just fundamentally important, just even at an emotional level, because the work is so difficult all of the time. And one of the interesting pieces, though, is that because we've remained committed to each other for the last few years, last year we went to St. Catharines City Council with a motion just to recognize the importance that neighborhoods play, both in their unique characteristics of the people that live there and the ability of people that live in those spaces to be more active in their role as neighbors, as citizens. And it was the motion was unanimously passed by council, and the idea was to form a neighborhood forum in 2020 that could bring people in to kind of dispel maybe what it means to volunteer, and that Jim Dyer's kind of motion of moving from volunteerism to active sort of citizenry is one that I really do love, and there's a strong correlation between democratic engagement and in a community's health. So we didn't get to host that event yet because of COVID, but it was really going to look at just community engagement initiatives. I think further to what Heather was saying, understanding what that term means from a politician's perspective and sort of marrying and matching it with what it means from a community development sort of perspective, right? And so it's oftentimes in working for an institution, we're scratching our heads like, how could we get more uptake on a survey or some sort of event? And it's really, you see now that the trust that you've built with a community over several years of just showing up and being accountable and listening and responding will allow you to net like great benefits down the road. And so that we were able to do a lot of that legwork to, we had 100 people or so signed up for this event. Whereas if it was just sponsored by the city, somebody kind of just made that point of saying like, people might be more apt to just say, it's not for me, I'll pass on it, it's not worth my time or whatever. So, and Jonathan made that point on Tuesday as well of like the role of brokering, and instead of standing up and sort of looking for accolades of just being in positions to connect people, to keep that synergy kind of alive as being a really valuable thing for just community growth. And so, I mean, so I guess we're kind of constantly building our case, and we kind of got the green light to do a lot of this, recognizing, you know, from one perspective, oh, that's a really poor neighborhood, and then just kind of flipping that narrative on its head and saying, there's a lot of people there that are looking for new opportunities as opposed to just inserting services and having them attend those programs, are really like looking from the outset at leadership opportunities for people, small scale, but, you know, passing the torch and the platform for different people to be able to share their gifts and their passions with their community. So it's super exciting.
Mm-hmm. And you know, you reminded me of some of the like recommendations and lessons learned, and Karen on the call here helped contribute to some of these lessons learned, and one of them is about needing to be flexible, creative, and resilient in this process. So it's not, you know, it's not a traditional, you know, checkboxed kind of thing. You have to be creative, and you have to be flexible, and you have to be able to you know, take steps forward, but knowing that there's going to be some steps back that you got to move forward again. And that what works in one area doesn't always work in another area the same way. Also, the other thing that City of Kitchener had said to me was, you know, building relationships internally and externally. And so one of their lessons learned was when they developed their citywide strategy, is they went out and they did an excellent engagement. They went out and they engaged a lot of community. They did lemonade stands, they did coloring contests. So they were very creative, and they were very out there in the community. But what they didn't do very well was internally. And so when the strategy and recommendations came down, all the departments got really upset, because they're like, we can't do this and we can't do this, like the red tape. And so you have to make sure that you're not only engaging externally with the people, but you're also keeping your departments and engaging with them. And that's where that language is. And understanding what they mean, and bringing them so that they're brought along together, and understanding. So that was their biggest recommendation or lessons learned. I know, Angie, you've built a case.
I'm just sitting here thinking about, oh my God, I'm such a rogue neighborhood developer. I feel like we've been building the case, but I don't know who I'm building it for. That's what I've been thinking about, because I know we have a social master plan in St. Albert, which was really great when we built that so it was through resident and agency consultation, because it showed that there were 5 values that people really found important in terms of the social fabric of our community. And one of them was creating a sense of community and connectedness. So that basically gave me my marching orders finally, because I was sort of doing this work anyway, but I didn't really have anything underneath me to sort of support it. But at the same time, I'm still feel like I'm doing it kind of like roguely, because our city council, honestly, like they don't know what we're doing. So like when you were as you're talking about neighborhood strategy, I'm thinking, who am I building a neighborhood strategy for? Am I building it for for the council, city council? Am I building it because I know it's what we need to be doing, but I'm just Angie, you know, and yes, I have a strong neighborhood network. I have neighborhood connectors. I do actually have a municipal team, a neighborhood development committee. So it's like I have all the pieces. I just don't have nobody's pushing me. I don't know who, I'm just like, oh, I don't know. So I'm sort of playing with this idea in my head, trying to figure it out. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Maybe I'm ready when the call comes. I don't know.
Can I comment on that? It's Karen, and I'm so sorry I was late. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think that we started that way in London as well. And our network was really big when we were doing the citywide strategy. We had over 100 people from across the city, and then we had internal staff on it as well. But we did have to sell it to the city council. And it was one of our, so we met for a really long time and put together the vision, and all the things Heather was talking about are bang on with what we did, both at the large scale, and then I was working small scale in a little neighborhood, kind of doing the same thing. But once we presented to council, and we had the residents present to council, they did a slideshow of the vision and the elements of a strong neighborhood and all of the ideas that we had come up with. And that was embraced really well by council as far as, oh, you know what, this is how we make a strong city. If every neighborhood has, you know, these elements and is aiming for this vision, this is how we make a strong city. And then it became part of our citywide strategic plan, like our municipal plan. So I would suggest that you go for, you know, informing and cheerleading to your city council.
Especially now with the pandemic, because it is loud and clear that the cities who have, and Deborah talked about this on Tuesday, who did that pre-work and had the neighborhood strategies, they survived better than those who didn't, in terms of being able to help residents move forward and get through the pandemic. So that might be like, that's a little angle now that you can use when you're going to council. And that's part of knowing how to speak to council and what they're going to listen to. They're not going to listen to street parties. They're going to listen to, they're going to listen to, this is going to reduce the number of calls to council for this.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Karen and Heather. I appreciate that, because it's funny, because the other thing while you were presenting, Heather, I was thinking about was, you said something earlier about why are residents not involved in community and how can they be? And that's the other piece that I do struggle with in St. Albert, because we're not sure, like, should we do neighborhood associations? Should we not? Like, what do we put in place that people can be involved in? And then the other thing, just recently, one of our counseling team was sharing that she's been starting to have these conversations with families about not calling it a pandemic anymore. It's an endemic. Like, it's the end of, I'm sorry, this is sort of doomsday sounding, but like, our things changed and they might not change back. So it's we're moving into a new way of doing and being. And so then I was like, oh my God. So now people can't go anywhere, so they may as well hang out with their neighbors. So now's the time to like just jump in there and like build on what we have. So I don't know, it's just, yeah, I'm thinking a lot right now about all these different things and how do we put it all together. And maybe it's the time, yes, to go to council and say, wow, look at what we did, because we had all this neighborhood stuff happening. We were supporting each other, and now we need to take it the next step. But I have to go on holidays first.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, I love this conversation, and this is the worst part of my job is saying, hey guys,
can we do one last? Is there one last comment?
Okay.
I see Emily. Emily's dying. She's got to say.
Okay, do it, Emily.
I've been in my role for 2 years at Greenway Chaplain. We're a small charitable organization in Cambridge. We get base funding from our municipality, but we're very curious whether that funding will be the same next year or not. And as Angie was saying, how do we sort of highlight our neighborhood? And it's a specific geographic piece of the city that I'm focusing on. I came from sort of a volunteer engagement position. And so in my new role as ED, we built some of those trust factors, those trust pieces with the residents and our service providers. And we're just in a really interesting place to try to figure out what that neighborhood plan looks like. And I'm excited. And I think I need to take it to cities sooner than later to at least give them the update and, say to our city councilor and our other municipal connections of where the project is at. So it's a good reminder to do it sooner than later in this current time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, since we did one more, I'm just going to say, if there's anyone who, any of the quieter voices on this call, if there's something that's just really alive for you right now that you want to share, just give you the opportunity.
Nothing really for me. It's Deborah.
Okay, thanks, Deborah.
It's Deanna. I actually have a neighborhood meeting at like 1 o'clock, like in an hour. And so my mind is just blowing up. And honestly, I think my big realization is maybe we need to take a step back and maybe start. We're here, we're working here, and we have some people like neighborhood connectors, and we have some of that happening, but maybe I need to take them back. And so Heather, I've already looked up the guide and I'm gonna pull bits and pieces, for my hour prep that I have now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think really good stuff, and just kind of like reining us back. Like, we're working here and we think the community's here, but maybe they're still back here and we just have to start back here. So that's my little learning for today. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you. All right. Okay. If there is anybody, if you want to speak up, go for it. I'm just going to launch polling because we just want to make sure that we're on track as we go through these and make sure that we're meeting our goals. So 3 simple questions. If you can take a minute and just fill out the poll, that'd be great.
And while you're doing that, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about this. And I'm excited for the next one. I'll talk about the group guide because I was really, really excited about that. It frustrates me to no end to sit on groups and have no idea why. And I'm pretty sure others are frustrated. So I'm excited to bring that learning to you, but I'd love to have a chat if you want to dive into any of this or question or thoughts or ideas. My dog is too, if you can hear him barking.
That's awesome. Thank you everyone for polling. I feel like we kind of hit the mark. It's funny because I think you all are getting to know each other more. So the getting to know or making a new connection with members is of course getting less and less, which is exciting because that means you're getting more and more connected. Anyway, thank you for that piece.
And I want to highlight that, like Karen and Deborah on the call here, they do have neighborhood strategy citywide. And a lot of knowledge and expertise. And so I want to thank you guys for being on the call and, providing support to those of us who are new.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
I know that we are over time, but Heather, did you want to speak to the 2 learning opportunities that are coming up quickly? And then we will send out the links and everything afterwards.
So we have, and actually, if you're in Alberta area, go to Deborah's movie showing. There's one coming up, and she's going to send us the link to it. But we have the Great Disconnect movie showing at the end of the month, and this would be a great opportunity for building the case. It's a documentary. It's well put together. It's really the case as to why we need people and neighbors to get to know each other. And in this documentary is where the clip it for the 4 forms of capital are. And so this would be a good opportunity to get your counselors and your business leaders, champions together to gather popcorn and watch it. We did do it in the evening so that we can allow for more people, neighborhood associations, leagues, etc. And then as soon as Cormac Russell's book was released, I called him and booked a interview with him, and September 16th. And I just got this book and I'm on chapter 3, and this is for institutions on how do you support residents to come back and be part of democracy. And it's a really, really good book. It's hard to get it right now, and there is a backlog because it's coming from the US. We do encourage you, he wants to encourage you not to use Amazon. He likes to support the small local groups, but Amazon Prime, you'll be able to get it before the interview. Any other way, you might get it after the interview, unfortunately, because of the border being closed. So I'm really excited about that. And we might do a book club on it.
Oh,
I
that's
think
cool.
that'd be really great. So we'll do the.
We're doing a book club on it now in Edmonton.
Are you?
We're doing Abundant Community first, and then we're doing the Rekindling Democracy. It's awesome. It starts next week. Ooh.
Oh, so Deborah is going to be doing our book club in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it. That's our learning opportunities coming up. And we are going to be sending an email out to you all about some other great reads and learning opportunities for the summer. That'll come out next week. So thank you.
Hey, thanks everyone for coming. Thanks Heather for taking us through that. I have seen lots of comments just thanking you for walking us through. That was a great presentation. I hope everybody got that. And I know that you're more than willing to have more conversations about this because you're pretty passionate about it. Yeah, thanks everyone. This is a great call. Thanks for sharing your ideas and thoughts and what's alive for you right now. Till next time.